Hello, Super Nation, and welcome to another episode of Super Sessions with SUEN, where we aim to inspire, motivate, and empower you to always show up as the super version of yourself. For this episode, I am so excited because it's our health episode. And as you know, health is our wealth. And today we have a very special guest in the super seat. Her name is Miss Carlene Francis, and I can't wait to hear her story. Carlene, welcome
Hi.
to the super seat.
Thank you so much, Win.
are
It's so
you?
nice to be here. Thank you for inviting me.
Absolutely, absolutely. And Carlene, I just want to tell our super family out there how I heard about you because I have a few friends and they kept telling me to get this book, The Wounded Bird, which Carlene wrote. And it's a pretty fascinating story. And Carlene, I want to ask you about your journey getting to authoring this book here. It says, The Wounded Bird, When the Protector Becomes the Predator, a story of abandonment, betrayal, and abuse. This is topics that we don't really talk about a lot in our community, in our Jamaican diaspora, in our African American communities. And I am just really happy that you're here to talk about that today, about that journey and about how it got you to write this book.
Yes.
Please share the supernatural elements of that journey.
Okay, well, this is a really long story, but I'm going to try to nip it in the bud to get to the juice of it. Growing up in Jamaica as a little girl, living in a home taken from the home that I knew, which was with my grandparents and my big cousin, and having to move to this new place, new city, new town with a complete stranger and not having my support system. Now, growing up in that home, I endured so much abuse and so much that it sometimes is hard to talk about. I felt alone, scared. I was blamed for everything. I was like the black sheep. I was the outcast. I was the Cinderella. I was everything. So growing up, I felt like I never belonged. I felt like I was not destined for anything good. In fact, they told me you will never amount to anything. And I believe that. They told me I wasn't smart enough for school, and I believe that. I was told to go and learn a skill at an early age because I wasn't smart enough for education. And the names that I was called, I lived those names, and I became the person that they told me that I would be. And for many years, I lived this defeated, on purpose, undriven life, you know. Yeah. Most times I hear people talk about what would you like to be when you grow up, to kids.
Yes.
That was never asked for me, and I never had a dream. So my life was just a survival all my years growing up until in my late 30s. My life was a survival, just getting something and doing it and trying to survive.
Wow, Carlene. It just come to me how powerful words are and what you tell your children. Because for you, you basically listen to that stuff. As a child, that's what you're going to do.
Exactly.
Because you weren't being told, you're listening to the adults in your life. And I just want to remind parents, just because I hear that point and I'm a mother, you really have to speak life into your children.
Yes,
you have to speak good, positive, empowering words.
Yes.
How did you turn that around though, Carlene?
Wow. I didn't turn around. It took years for me to get to a point of realizing that I was beautiful, that God had chosen me, and that I was special. But I remember the first time that I remembered that I was abused was probably in my 30s. I was very depressed. And I was suicidal. So in fact, it was 4 attempts that I made on my life. that did not go through. And thank God that it didn't go through. But I was in such a depression stage. And you looking at me would never know that I was suffering from depression. And I didn't know why I was going through this depression time in my life. It was after going to see a counselor, and at the time I was married and my husband and I were separated, but now we were trying to get back together. And I went to this counselor, and that one session I went by myself. And it was then that the counselor found out, talking to the counselor, I realized, or I remembered that I was actually abused. And remembering that, I just started throwing up. Yes.
You said you remember.
Yes, everything started coming back. So when you're abused as a child,
yes.
God is so good. What he does is sometimes the memories are suppressed. So you don't remember some of the things that happened to you. But sometimes when you start remembering, it comes like when you open the floodgate and everything just starts. And that's what happened to me. When I remembered, I started throwing up. That was how bad it was. And I was in this office with this counselor, and I was throwing up and I was crying, and I was a wreck because I remembered what happened to me as a child. And that's pushed me into a really depression because I wanted to kill the person that abused me. And I was plotting in my head how I was going to kill them. But at the time, I had met Jesus, and I had a relationship with him, but I wasn't really close to him. What really changed the trajectory of my life is listening to a sermon one Sabbath. A preacher came in and he was talking about how the Lord allowed things to happen to you for his good. And girl, I went to the pastor and I cussed him out. He was standing at the door. And you can find that, I've written that, and I'm in a book with 21 authors, and it's called Waiting in the Pit. So that particular story is in that book. But I cussed this pastor out. I said, "Dear you, for telling me that as a child, that the God of the universe watched me go through everything and did nothing about it for his good." I'm like, I cussed him out.
Yes.
That pastor took me in the back of the church and he talked with me, prayed with me, shared stories about other people that were abused and stuff. But after that day, I said to the Lord that I will not talk to him again. I will not have anything to do with him until he proved to me that he loved me. Because the hardest thing is when you're abused, how could a God so loving, how could a God so powerful, how could a knowing God allow these things to happen to a child? I wasn't an adult, I was a child, and my innocence were taken. My whole life was pretty much taken. And I couldn't understand how a God so loving could allow this to happen to me. So I told him I didn't want nothing more to do with him. I said, that's it, I'm done.
You were very upfront with
Yes,
the Lord.
and I said, if you cannot prove to me that you love me and that you exist, then I don't want nothing more to do with you. And what happened? It happened so quickly because I did not expect it to happen so quickly.
Yes.
I said that prayer Saturday night. Sunday morning, I was on my way to work, and I had a head-on collision.
Okay, we're gonna break here.
Okay.
We'll be right back. Super Nation, imagine you talking to God and you need him to prove his love for you because you haven't been feeling the love all your life.
Yes.
And you have a head-on collision?
Yes.
Stay tuned. We'll be right back.
Do you have a story to share? Maybe an experience or information that can transform somebody's life? Maybe you want to grow your business by writing a book. JWG Publishing House has helped hundreds of authors to turn their dream into publishing reality. Publishing a book without the knowledge of the process can be very frustrating. Not to worry, our award-winning team will patiently walk you through the process, from idea to cover to the end product. And get this, you will own 100% of your royalties. We are the only authentic independent publisher you will ever need. So what are you waiting on? Call us today at 561-4 412-7772. We're waiting to serve you.
Welcome back, Super Family. We were on the edge of our seats when Carlene mentioned that she was in a head-on collision the day after she asked the Lord to show her how much He loved her. So, Carlene, at this moment, I just want you to continue with the story because we need to know what happened.
So yes, I had a head-on collision, and I woke up in the hospital, and I hear a lot of noise around me. Doctors saying, "You need to find something. You need to find something." And I realized at that moment that they were testing to see what happened.
Yes.
And the last thing I heard him say is that nobody go through that kind of accident and walk out without some internal bleeding or something. And they couldn't find anything wrong with me. So they left me in a room, and I was by myself because, after all the tests and everything, and I heard the voice. I heard one of the sweetest voice, but I didn't know what it was. And the voice asked me, "Is this proof enough?" And I'm like, "Who is this?" And the voice asked again, "Is this proof enough?" And I'm like, "What are you talking about?" And so, like in a slow motion, when you're watching the games and they do the replay in the slow motion in the play, and you see everything.
Yes.
So now I'm looking at what happened. I saw the accident happening, and I saw myself driving, and I saw that I was going to die because there were two cars that were going to hit me, and the first car would have hit me first, and it was going to hit me in the second one, and that was going to be total. And in the distance, I saw a face, a man's face, and he was laughing, like he was jeering at me. And I heard the voice said to me, "Pray." And I said, "No, it's too late." Because remember, I told the Lord, "I'm not going to talk to you anymore." And the voice said to me, "Pray." And I said, "No, it's too late." And the voice said it the third time, "Pray." Wow. And I said, "Geez." And that was all I remembered.
And then
the accident.
The accident.
So now I'm in the hospital, and now I'm hearing this voice, and in slow motion, I'm seeing the accident. And
so
just
how
before,
did you walk out of the hospital, Carlene?
just before the car hit,
Yes.
I saw this huge hand reaching down in the car and picking me up in the palm of his hand. And when I saw that girl, I just lost it. I just started weeping because at that moment I recognized that the Lord did love me, that He did care about me, that He came down Himself and picked me up out of that accident.
And how did you walk out of the hospital?
I walked out with my 2 feet. Nothing was wrong with me.
If that isn't sign enough that the Lord loves you, my
Yes.
dear, I don't know what is. And from that day moving forward, can you tell us about your journey to the book and what superpower came out of that for you?
Okay.
You realize that the Lord loves you now for sure because He saved your life.
Yes.
No scar, no nothing.
Nothing.
You come out of the hospital, you reflected on these abuse that happened to you. You had the courage to write this book. What would you say your superpower is?
Well, it didn't happen, all of these took years and time.
Yes.
So out of the accident, when I had the encounter with the Lord, He told me that I needed to go back to school. And remember when I was a child, they told me that I wasn't intelligent enough for school. So when He told me to go back to school and He said specifically to go into ministry, I laughed. I said, "You forget who you're talking to. I'm not smart enough for that." And He told me that His grace was sufficient to take me through.
Yes.
So I went to Andrews University and I got my master's in ministry.
Look at you, Carlene. Master.
Yes. I got my master while I was working on my master. Well, I did 2 masters in ministry and a master's in social work. But while I was in school, in my first seminary class, I was asked to write about my life. And I wrote a little snapshot of my life. And the professor called me in. He was crying. And he was like, "I am so sorry that happened to you, but I'm going to put you in counseling." So for the 3 years I was at Andrews, I was in counseling. And my counselor encouraged me to start talking about my story. And that's how it brought me to writing this book. because it was her. Even though I said to her, no, I will not do it, after years of her pounding on me and I'm seeing where God is leading me,
Yes.
that's what led to me writing this story.
Wow, Carlene. And this story, you know, it says a story of abandonment, betrayal, and abuse. You got to write this book. What superpower do you say you have from writing this book, or you want to share? I just heard the most dramatic, vivid, supernatural experience I've ever heard in my life. My guest here, Carlene, head-on collision.
Yes.
Car totaled.
Total.
And she could look back in that hospital room and see what happened and saw the Lord's hand come in and pick her up out of
Picking
that car
me up,
accident.
yes.
And save you. Not one scratch, not one scar, no internal bleedings. You were able to walk out of that hospital
Walk out of
room.
that hospital room.
Isn't
yes.
God good?
The following day, yes.
The following day.
Yeah.
If that is not the most
Supernatural.
vivid supernatural
Yes.
experience I've ever heard.
Yeah.
And we just gotta thank God for
Oh, yes. I praise him every day.
that. Yes.
And it was during that interaction that it solidified my relationship with the Lord, because he told me so much about how much he loved me and that he has always been by my side. Everything that I went through, that he was there with me. It was so amazing, that interaction
yes.
that I had with
so
him.
this is why you really had
Yes.
to share your story.
I had to share my story. Yes.
Okay, Carlene. So for all the super people out there that have been abused, felt abused, abandoned, betrayed, I really want you to give them some super tip right now. That's what we call it here on Super Session, some advice that you can share with them for them to be as transformed in their life as you are.
Yes.
And something that they can take action about, like right away, to start them on this journey. Is there something you can share?
One of the things the Lord also told me was that I needed to go to the person that abused me and tell them that I forgave them.
Woo.
That was the hardest thing I could do. I couldn't do it. In fact, when he told me, I swear at him. I don't swear, but at that moment I did.
Yes.
And I told him I wouldn't. And months later, I still was in the dark place.
Ooh.
Even though I had that encounter with the Lord, I was still in the dark place because I refused to forgive the perpetrator.
Forgive.
And then the day that it happened so, it had to be God. Because when I went over there and I went in the room and I told him that I forgave him and that he needs to forgive himself. And when I walked out of that room, it was a complete different woman that walked out of that room. And my burden, the shame, the guilt, everything was just lifted off my head. And I was able to see colors. When I walked outside and I looked at the trees, I could actually see the colors on the trees. Because before, it was like everything was gray in my life, you know?
And
the moment I told the person that I forgave him, I saw colors, I saw the sunlight. My face changed because at the time my daughter was 14 years old and she said, "Mom, what's wrong with you?" Look,
she could see the
she
difference.
said, "Why your face so bright?"
What?
You know, there was a transformation because I forgave that person. And you know, it's very hard. I'm not gonna kid you. When someone hurts you, when someone takes your innocence from you, and it's not even that they did it to, it's the person that did it to you, it hurts. It hurts, it hurts. And the hardest thing is to let go of the pain, because the pain is the only thing you have. The pain is your comfort, your blanket, and you hold on to it. You don't want to let go of that. You don't.
But you need to.
But in order for you to move past your trauma and the abuse that you endure, you have to forgive. You have to start the healing process. So in order for you to be healed or to start the healing process, there are certain steps that you have to take. With me, I had to first talk talk about it because it was so embarrassing. The guilt, the shame that I carried for so many years, I didn't want to talk about it. So we have to talk about it. Then you also have to come to recognition that it's not your fault. It wasn't my fault. I thought it was my fault. And until you come to terms and knowing that this is not your fault, then you're able to move on. Coming to terms with the fact that, hey, this person that hurt you may either die or they're not living where you are. But find a way to write a letter, go to the graveyard, yell at them if you must, but you have to confront them at some point to tell them that you forgive them. And that is when true healing starts.
That is amazing.
Yes.
Carlene, I am just really happy that you were able to forgive, you were able to go on that journey, and you can share those powerful tips. I mean, forgiveness, people don't realize is for themselves. It's not for the person. You're not doing anybody else a favor. You're doing yourself the best service when you forgive people who have wronged you. So that is a very awesome tip, Carlene. I want to thank you for that. Before we leave, I want you to share where to find you, where to buy your book, where can we find you on all the social media platforms, because people are going to want to know, girl.
Yes, so you can get my book at Amazon, but if you want a signed copy of my book, it is on Healing the Sources, and that's my website. So go to Healing the Sources, you can send me a message, you can purchase a book, you can also look at the different programs that I have to help people that have suffered from childhood trauma into their healing process.
Yes. Thank you so much. Are you on Facebook?
Yes, and I'm also on Facebook. You can find my name, Carlene Francis, or you can find me under Healing the Sources.
Healing the Sources, that's your website,
Yes,
right?
yes.
Okay.
And also on Facebook.
Awesome.
I'm just trying to work on my Instagram. I have, I think it's childhood trauma, but I'm still working on that one. I haven't finished with that one yet. Yes.
All right. Well, you've heard it, Super Family. You know where to find Carlene. And we expect you to go share this with everybody you know, because we all know somebody who's been mistreated, abused, betrayed, and we need this to heal. Wow. This is what Super Sessions is all about, Super Family. This is what we come here for. I am so happy that we had Miss Carlene Francis as our Super Sessions health guest, and her super tip was forgiveness. Forgiveness. Let's forgive who we need to forgive out there so we can be inspired, motivated, and empowered to always show up as the super best version of ourselves. Thank you. Stay tuned for the next Super Sessions on The Wayne Hall Show every other Wednesday at 8:45 p.m. And please follow me on Instagram, Super Sessions with SUEN, Facebook, Super Sessions with SUEN. Thank you. Stay super.
Do you have a story to share? Maybe an experience or information that can transform somebody's life? Maybe you want to grow your business by writing a book. JWG Publishing House has helped hundreds of authors to turn their dream into publishing reality. Publishing a book without the knowledge of the process can be very frustrating. Not to worry, our award-winning team will patiently walk you through the process, from idea to cover to the end product. And get this, you will own 100% of your royalties. We are the only authentic independent publisher you will ever need. So what are you waiting on? Call us today at 561-412-7772. We're waiting to serve you.